Hi everybody, I'm here on Skid Row and I hope that I never get used to this place. And I'm here with somebody that is at the top of my hero book. This is Officer Joseph from LAPD.
Yes, sir.
And you've been down here how many years?
16 and a half years.
So before we go into what we're going to talk about, just give us a brief, your view of Skid Row.
My view of Skid Row is this. Skid Row is a recovery zone. Okay, it's a place where on every corner there is hope for the individual struggling with alcohol addiction and drug addiction. Really, the only thing Skid Row can't do is house everybody, even though they do their best they can. But it being a recovery zone, it attracts two kinds of people. Individuals who desperately need the services that they can't afford anywhere else, and individuals who are more than willing to prey on them in the form of gang members, drug dealers, and even sometimes advocates who prey on them to keep them on an endless spiral of addiction. Right. Yeah.
Now, I'm here with Joseph. Deon Joseph is a man, not necessarily LAPD officer. So what we're going to talk about is the faith-based community here on Skid Row, or that's coming down to Skid Row, and what's happening because of that. So his views and my views are not necessarily the city of Los Angeles or the Los Angeles Police Department.
Just the truth.
And I have been coming down here for almost 2 decades, and I have yet to meet a homeless person to say that they're going hungry. There's food here 24/7. 24/7. There's churches pulling up in their vans and breaking out breakfast burritos and meals, and it's created, it causes more harm than good. So before we start on this, we both are passionate about this subject. It might get a little long. I hope you stay with us. We're going to try to keep it short for the YouTube, short attention span. But this is not a slam on Christianity or Christians. There's a lot of ways the churches can help and make a big difference.
Absolutely.
And have impact. So we're going to go into that too. So what really got me was you posted on Facebook right around Christmas, which this has to be almost a war zone.
It's absolutely what it is.
So what happens? Tell me what's going on.
Well, I want to start out by saying I'm a born-again Christian myself, so I understand the heart. And my mom fed the homeless for 10 years in a responsible way where there was no services. But what I saw on Christmas and what I see throughout the year are people with the best of intentions, but they're not really educated as to what Skid Row really is. And they'll come down here and throw food and clothing out to people in the street when they're not hungry and they're not naked. And my view on this is, like I said, Skid Row is a recovery zone, and all these programs, you have the missions, you have 4 major missions, you have 5 smaller ones, and some of the housing programs have feeding programs. These folks, these individuals, these great organizations serve 9,000 meals a day, and they offset their hours to meet the needs of the community. People actually get fat, for lack of a better term, in Skid Row. But the goal of the missions with their food and their clothing program is to draw them to the services that they need, because this is what Skid Row is.
Right.
We know nationwide that homelessness is due to a lack of job, economy, the recession, mental health, throw that in there. Those are nationwide, a blanket statement for what homelessness is. But in Skid Row, and I'm not trying to demonize the homeless, I'm telling the truth, in this 50-block radius we call Skid Row, the driving force keeping people in the street is addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, cocaine. Right. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but a good majority is. And when you feed them in the street, you clothe them in the street, you end up robbing them of any incentive to utilize the services in there, like the drug programs, and take their lives back from addiction. And that's all I've been trying to state for years. I've never, not once have I ever told anyone not to help, but help in a responsible way that de-incentivizes the streets, not attracts them to the streets where they stay on a path, a destructive path of addiction.
He brings up a great point, is that we're not saying don't help people.
No, absolutely not.
We're saying help more. Just do it smarter and work with other churches. I mean, how many churches come down here in a given day?
In a given day, we could have 20, 30 churches during the holidays. 50,
50 churches coming down feeding the same people.
Same people, that's especially during the holidays. Right. And sometimes we'll talk to them, we'll get some of them to agree, and they'll change their tactics, but then they get replaced by 2 more people who watch a documentary about Skid Row or
and they want to come down and save the lost.
They want to help. But before you help, just talk to the experts, talk to the missions, talk to the police department. We're not going to lie, we don't have a dog in the fight, because we see the aftermath.
Right.
We see the people that get beat up for while people argue over the clothes when you drive off.
Right.
Hey, how you doing?
They're using the clothes for toilet paper. Let's be real. The clothes are being sold for drugs, or they're being used for toilet paper. And you know, you did a Facebook post that just so messed me up because you're addressing some of those issues, talking about people that are getting these backpacks full of clothes, going to sell them and for drugs, and the preachers are on stage singing a hymn, not even aware
of what's going on. Right. Well, yeah, and so that's exactly what I've been trying to say. And like I said, I'm not trying to paint everybody out here with a broad brush, but there are far too many who are engaged in the activity where you will give some clothes off, you'll drive off, and you'll shout and sing, and then you drive off, and then the real party begins. They're not fighting over clothes because they need it. I mean, if you look around, you haven't seen one naked person walk by this camera right now. They're fighting over the best item of clothes they can line up on the sidewalk later, clog the sidewalk, and sell for $2 or $3 to smoke crack cocaine. And who have you helped? You've actually aided somebody in their destruction. And that's what I'm saying. When you give them food, they'll take 2 bites of what they want, and then the rest will be thrown into the street for the rats and the roaches and the vermin. For the 1,200 people who do choose to sleep out in the street at night, they have to deal with that, and that's where we get the hepatitis, the tuberculosis, the staph, and all these horrible things that I know if you care, you got to care beyond just the handout in the street. You got to educate yourself. That's all I want people to do.
I've always said it like this. Well, first off, I got to say, I was in Tompkins Square Park, which is in East Village, and I was there for 2 hours. 5 churches came and fed the same people. 2 hours. If I was there, you know, it's not really just a Skid Row problem. It's throughout America. So whenever, you know, my Twitter goes off, my Facebook goes off, when a community decides to start taking some legal action or to start banning public feeding. And all of them come to me and say, oh my gosh, look at this, it's horrible, and I'm for it. First off, every sidewalk cafe, every hot dog vendor, everybody has to have a license. Every restaurant is zoned, so there's not so many on one street corner. All food is regulated except what's given to the homeless people. So by you saying you don't want to be regulated, you're saying you don't want to work with the system. Now, first off, you as a church should be working with other churches, and then there would be no need if you all schedule and say, we're going to come down on Monday and we're going to come down on Tuesday. Or better yet, you bring your food to the Union Rescue Mission or the LA Mission or the Midnight Mission and feed in their cafeteria so they can save their money on housing, jobs, and health services. If churches could just work together, there'd be no need for laws.
Well, one of the things I say, like I said, I want to reiterate that we're not telling you not to come down and help. Please come down and help. But don't give out food in the street. Give out hygiene kits. You got to understand, you have some individuals in Skid Row who haven't bathed in 4 or 5 days because they're measured on crack cocaine, methamphetamine, and that can make for a pretty ornery, angry individual. You know, you'll have some individual who want to fight just because he's not wearing his pants are wearing him. You know, so you give them a hygiene kit, they go take a shower in one of these wonderful programs here, and maybe, just maybe, they might decide to take advantage of the program. And some of these services here, they need your donations. Like the LA Mission, another great organization that actually changes lives, like the Union Rescue Mission here. The LA Mission, they need bread right now. You could be a blessing to the LA Mission with a lot of bread. You have the Union Rescue Mission who needs peanut butter and jelly. You know, they're feeding people, they're able to feed people things like peanut butter and jelly so they can give more. Give your clothes to them so they can give it out in an orderly fashion and draw them to the drug programs and the alcohol programs and the job programs so people can get off of Social Security and GR and become self-sufficient and get off of drugs. That's what it's all about.
And you know, if you're just coming down here, offering a burrito and then going away, and maybe you're going to lay hands on them or say a prayer, people don't need, I mean, we need to be an answer to people's prayers.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to be ending homelessness, not maintaining homelessness. And just going into a park and randomly publicly feeding is maintaining homelessness. Now, if you work with the community, with the missions, with the nonprofits, with the police, and work and say, hey, we really want to help. How can we best do that?
Right.
Man, then we're going to end homelessness. And there's a lot of ways. Joseph said, Officer Joseph said, hygiene kits. I mean, you can come down. The place is a mess. From all the other churches bringing food, come down here and bring brooms and clean it up.
We have some wonderful organizations that do.
You know,
I got to give them their props. Dream Center,
Dream Center comes down and cleans up.
Yeah.
And the Dream Center is one of the good ones out here. The good ones, if you're a church and you don't know what to do, contact Matthew Barnett. Contact the Dream Center and they'll show you, you know. And I just love walking the streets with Officer Joseph. Everybody just loves on him. You know, I mean, you can't go 2 steps down here without being loved on.
It's difficult.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. But that shows. That shows. So also there's, you know, when a person is placed into housing, and there's a lot of, one of the things that I'm excited about, I haven't been down here in about 3 weeks, there's new housing that's already up. Once these people get placed into housing, they need tangible social interaction.
Absolutely.
If you leave the Bible in the truck and came in here and just loved on people and get, you know, maybe played chess or Monopoly or gave them something to do, there's so many ways that a church can help the people of Skid Row that will help them better their lives, because just feeding is really just helping you.
Sometimes it's taking them out of their environment. See, a lot of people have been entrenched in Skid Row for so long, they don't know anything else. You got to understand a human being can get used to anything, unfortunately, even things that are bad for them. You got people who get out of prison and want to go right back because they get 3 hots in the shower, you know, and people go volunteer to go back to war because they're used to it. Same thing with Skid Row. So come down with your church, get a busload, and bring some people from Skid Row and take them to your church. And if you want to bring them back, okay, but take them out of the element that's keeping them on that end of spiral because of the great propensity to be tempted to fail.
I've always, you know, they'll argue, I want to go there and I want to feed them there, and I've always wanted to say, well, why don't you just bring them home? You know what I mean? If you're arguing about a place of where to go, why don't you just bring them to your dinner table? Oh no, can't do that. Well, then we're going to have regulations. Come on, people. You know, and again, you know, there's a lot of great, you know, the LA Dream Center, their food trucks, amazing. They come down here and they work with the Volunteers of America. They're not down here feeding on themselves. They're working with missions.
Absolutely.
You know, and then they have a program. Right, being responsible. So if you're a pastor out there or a leader or something, we need somebody to come into Los Angeles and champion the faith-based organizations to work together, to come up with some kind of a schedule. There would be no need for these bills and laws and regulations if we all just work together.
And let me state, we are not for an ordinance. You know, that's not something I ever promoted. You know, but unfortunately, in other cities, when other cities try to talk to people and they can't get people to listen because they won't step away from their worldview and see the truth, they create these ordinances. That's not something we want in Los Angeles. We want to be able to educate.
Less laws, less government.
Less laws, because you know you don't want to criminalize somebody for wanting to do the right thing.
Right.
You just want to guide them in doing it in a way that actually helps people get better.
Right.
And not keep them on an endless spiral of destruction.
And since churches won't work together, that forces the government to come up with laws, and we don't need them.
And so far, there's been no talks of that on our end. Like I said, I think that I don't want to criminalize anybody for doing it.
No. I mean, there is a ban and an ordinance being suggested that hopefully will get people to the table.
Right.
And instead of using fear and everything to motivate, let's start talking about working together and helping the people here in Skid Row.
Right.
When I read your Facebook, I mean, I just, oh my gosh, my heart breaks for you, and my heart breaks for them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I can feel what you're going through, although I can't imagine, you know what I mean? Because you do this every day and you see it from a different lens. But my heart is with them also.
That's where my heart is always. It's a welcome burden. Trust me, when I got out here and I see people's lives changing because they're getting love from a place they didn't expect it. I mean, most of these folks, they're from South LA. They've been raised and indoctrinated to hate law enforcement, and I just find it such a blessing that I can walk down the street and give them love from a place they didn't expect it, and they depend on me, and it's a welcome burden, and they depend on me. I'm not supposed to be their voice. I'm a police officer, but sometimes I am a voice for them, and it's an honor. It's an honor, but it does become heartbreaking sometimes when we get setbacks with injunctions and things, and you can't fight that, but you just keep pushing, man. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a welcome burden.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you for spending some time. Hopefully you got to the end of this. I want to thank Lydia for being a wonderful camel person. I see she's getting emotional there, so she's about to get hugs. Thank you, officer, for taking the time. I'd like to come down and do some more on these topics.
Absolutely.
And again, this isn't just an LA issue. I've seen it all over the country. I've seen it in London with the soup runs. Nobody's saying don't do anything.
No.
Nobody's saying stop feeding. They're saying work with your community for more impact.
Yeah, absolutely.